Weeks passed after the last battle, and Eden 4 slowly returned to its peaceful rhythm. The repairs to the cities were nearly complete. Children played in the streets, families laughed again, and the twin suns continued to rise over silver plains that were no longer scarred by fire. Eli Mercer moved quietly among the people, his uniform now marked with the subtle stains of battle. Though the fighting was over, he did not rest. He checked on repair crews, helped train volunteers for planetary defense, and oversaw the final upgrades to the city's shield system. But his thoughts were never far from one person, Lyra Hale. One evening, Eli walked to the hill where he and Lyra had once made a promise under the twin suns. The wind whispered through the tall grass, carrying memories of childhood laughter, fear, and hope. He reached into his pocket and held the small ring he had carried all these years. It was not shiny or ornate. It was simple, forged from the remains of his first starfighter, the very ship he had flown in the battle that saved the colony. The metal was scratched and worn, but to Eli it was perfect. It carried every memory of courage, every battle won, and every promise kept. He looked up at the sky. The twin suns shone softly, just as they had that day he was a boy. "I promised," he whispered. "And I kept it." Lyra approached from the path behind him, her footsteps silent among the silver grass. She had worked long hours repairing the shield system and coordinating rebuilding efforts, but tonight she had come here for herself. She found Eli standing there, staring at the horizon. "You're late," she said softly, though there was a smile in her voice. Eli turned, smiling faintly. "I was making sure everything was safe before I returned." Lyra laughed lightly, shaking her head. "You've spent years protecting everyone, and yet you still carry that boyish stubbornness." "I've learned that stubbornness is sometimes the best armor," Eli replied. "It keeps people going when hope seems impossible." She stepped closer. "I see that every day. You've protected the colony, the people, and me." Eli reached into his pocket and pulled out the small metallic box. He opened it carefully, revealing the simple ring inside. The light of the twin suns reflected off the metal, making it glow softly. "Lyra," he said, kneeling on one knee as he had promised all those years ago. "I made a vow as a boy. I promised to return when peace came and give you this ring. Today I fulfill that vow." Her eyes filled with tears. She took a small step back, covering her mouth with her hands. "Eli, He gently placed the ring into her hand. "It's not just a ring. It is a promise. A symbol of hope, courage, and what humanity can achieve when it refuses to give up. I have fought to keep it, and now I offer it to you." For a moment, Lyra said nothing. She held the ring, feeling its weight, the memories it carried, and the love and determination behind it. Then she looked up at him, her face shining with emotion. You really came back," she whispered. "I promised," Eli said simply. She smiled through tears, stepping forward and holding his hands. "And I've waited. All these years I've waited for the boy who made a promise under the twin suns." Eli stood, still kneeling, and looked into her eyes. "It was never just a boy's promise," he said softly. "It was humanity's promise. We endure, we protect, and we rise. I want to face the future with you by my side." Lyra nodded, placing the ring on her finger. "Then I'll stand with you, Eli. Always." They stood together on the hill, the twin suns setting behind them in a blaze of gold and orange. The wind danced through the grass and the stars began to appear faintly above. For the first time in years, Eli felt completely at peace. In the days that followed, Eli and Lyra walked the streets of New Dawn together. People greeted them warmly, aware of the courage Eli had shown and the wisdom Lyra had shared. Children ran by, inspired by the stories of battles fought and lives protected. Humanity's spirit shone through every face, every gesture. Eli often visited the twin planes, teaching young cadets how to navigate, defend, and plan for the future. He told them stories of courage, determination, and hope, the human way. One day, while showing a group of cadets the old ruins of the first settlement, a small boy asked, "Captain Mercer, why do you fight so hard?" Eli looked at him and smiled. "Because the galaxy will always test us, but humans never quit. We fight for each other, for those we love, and for the promise of a better future. That is why we endure." The boy's eyes widened. "Even if it's scary?" Eli knelt and looked him in the eyes. "Especially when it's scary. That is when courage matters most." The boy nodded solemnly, understanding more than words could say. At night, Eli and Lyra often returned to the hill. They watched the twin suns rise and set, telling stories of old battles, dreams of exploration, and visions of the future. Eli carried his old ring, now worn smooth from years of travel and hope, but it symbolized more than a promise. It symbolized humanity itself, resilient, brave, and filled with love. "Do you ever think about the first day we met?" Lyra asked one evening. "All the time," Eli said, smiling. "I remember the grass, the sunsets, and how scared we were. But I also remember the promise we made." "And look at us now," she said, resting her head on his shoulder. "We kept going even when everything seemed impossible." Eli kissed her forehead gently. "That's what humans do. We rise, we endure, and we protect. And sometimes, we keep our promises." Months later, the colony celebrated the first anniversary of its final defense against the Zerath. There were speeches, parades, and games for children. But Eli and Lyra found a quiet moment on the hill, away from the crowd. Eli held Lyra's hand, looking at the twin suns. "We've been through so much," he said softly. "And yet this is just the beginning. Humanity has so much to explore, to protect, and to learn. I want to face all of it with you." Lyra smiled. "Then we will. Together." The twin suns dipped below the horizon, bathing the silver plains in golden light. Stars began to shine overhead, each one a reminder of the vast universe beyond Eden 4. Eli looked at the sky and whispered, "We made it, and we'll keep making it, together." Lyra squeezed his hand. "Always." And beneath the twin suns on the silver plains of their childhood, the boy's vow became a symbol of hope, courage, and the enduring spirit of humanity. Humans could face the stars, the impossible and the darkness beyond, and still rise, protect and love. Eli had returned with a ring, yes, but he had also returned with something far greater, the proof that humanity could endure, and that promises made from the heart could last a lifetime. Together they watched the stars, knowing that the universe was vast and full of unknowns. But no matter what came next, humanity would face it with courage, determination, and love. The boy had grown into a man. The promise had been fulfilled, and Eden 4 stood stronger than ever, a shining beacon in the galaxy. The twin suns rose again the next morning, and the promise of a better future glimmered across the silver plains. The night sky above the small town of Clearwater was endless, dark, and full of stars. 1,000 points of light shimmered across the heavens, each one like a distant secret waiting to be discovered. The air was cool, and the crickets sang softly in the grass. Eli Carter lay on a small hill, his hands folded under his head, staring at the stars. He was only 12, but his eyes held a strange curiosity, a hunger to know what was beyond Earth. Beside him sat Lena Ward, his best friend since childhood. She had tied her hair into a messy ponytail and wore a jacket that was a little too big for her. Her cheeks were red from the cold wind, but her smile was warm. "Do you ever think we'll go up there?" she asked, pointing toward a bright streak of light racing across the sky. "A meteor." Eli grinned. "Someday, when we're older, we'll build a ship and fly to the stars." Lena laughed. "A ship? You can barely fix your bicycle?" "Hey," he protested. "That's different. Space engines are way easier than rusty chains." She giggled and threw a small pebble at him. It bounced harmlessly off his shoulder. "Sure, future captain. You'll fix the engines and I'll fly the ship." "Deal," he said proudly. Then his face grew serious. "Promise?" Lena looked at him, noticing how his eyes glimmered in the starlight. There was something deep about that moment, a quiet belief that the universe was listening. She nodded slowly. "Promise." Eli reached into his pocket and pulled out a small silver ring. It was old and scratched, but it shined faintly in the moonlight. "Here," he said, handing it to her. "Keep this. It's not special or anything, but one day, when we're up there among the stars, I'll bring you the other one." Lena turned the ring in her fingers. It fit loosely on her smallest finger. "You're giving me a ring, Eli?" she teased. He blushed, shaking his head quickly. "It's not that kind of ring. It's just a promise ring. To remind you of what we said tonight." She smiled softly. "Then I'll never take it off." For a while, they stayed there in silence, watching the stars streak across the sky. The meteor shower seemed endless, like the heavens themselves were celebrating their promise. Years passed. The small town didn't change much, but Eli and Lena did. They grew taller, older, and more determined. Lena became fascinated by aircraft, anything that could fly. She spent hours watching news about the United Earth Space Command, the growing organization preparing for deep space exploration. Eli, on the other hand, became obsessed with communication technology. While other kids played games, he built small transmitters from scrap parts and tried to bounce signals off the moon. His dream wasn't just to travel to the stars, but to talk to them, to reach out and make contact with whatever might be waiting out there. After school, they would still meet at the same hill. Sometimes they brought snacks, sometimes just their dreams. Lena would say, "One day, they'll pick me as a pilot." And Eli would reply, "Then I'll make sure your ship can talk to galaxies." They both laughed. But deep inside, neither of them was joking. When they finished high school, everything began to move faster. Lena joined the United Earth Space Command training program, one of the toughest academies ever built. She sent letters to Eli every few weeks, describing her training, the stars she could see from orbit, and the sound of engines that shook the whole base. Eli stayed on Earth, studying quantum communication and deep space signal theory. He didn't mind staying behind, not at first. He believed in building something that would bring them back together. But time, as it always does, started to stretch the distance between them. The letters came less often. The calls were short and formal. One day, Lena's name appeared on the news. Lieutenant Lena Ward, now assigned to a special research fleet exploring the outer colonies. Eli smiled when he saw it, but something in his heart felt heavy. He looked at the night sky again, wondering which star she was under now. One evening, while Eli worked in his small lab, his mother entered quietly. "Still working on those space signals?" she asked kindly. Eli nodded. "Yeah, I think I'm close to something big," she smiled, setting a cup of tea on his desk. "You've been chasing stars since you were a child," he chuckled softly. "Maybe because one of them took my best friend." His mother looked at him for a moment. "You'll meet again. The universe has a way of keeping promises, especially the ones made with a pure heart." After she left, Eli turned back to his computer. Lines of data scrolled across the screen. Strange signals recorded from deep space. Most of them were noise, but something in the pattern caught his attention. It was rhythmic, like a heartbeat. He recorded the sound, enhanced it, and froze when he heard a faint tone hidden inside. It wasn't random. It almost sounded like a ring. A continuous loop of harmonic frequencies forming a perfect circle in the data graph. He didn't know why, but he whispered, "Lena?" No answer came. Meanwhile, on a distant colony world orbiting a red sun, Commander Lena Ward stood in front of her ship, the Starhawk. Her flight suit shimmered with the silver insignia of the United Earth Space Command. She had become everything she dreamed of. A respected officer, a pioneer among the stars. But even as she stood surrounded by alien skies and glowing nebulae, something felt missing. At night, she still wore the little silver ring on a chain around her neck. Whenever she looked at it, she remembered that boy from Clearwater, the one who believed in promises. Her second in command, a tall officer named Roan, noticed her silence. "Everything all right, Commander?" Lena smiled faintly. "Just thinking about Earth. Home?" "Not exactly," she said softly. "A promise." She turned away before he could ask more, gazing out at the vastness of space. The stars were beautiful, but also lonely. Back on Earth, Eli grew into a quiet man. His once small workshop became a research center filled with humming machines and glowing monitors. He had published several papers on subspace frequencies, earning respect in scientific circles, but none of that mattered to him. Every night after the lab lights dimmed, he would step outside and look up at the stars, still searching for one in particular. He often replayed the recordings of the mysterious ring-shaped signal he had found years earlier. It repeated like a melody with no end, echoing through his mind. The scientists he shared it with dismissed it as interference. But Eli felt something different, a connection. Maybe it was foolish. Maybe it was just his imagination, but deep down, he believed Lena could somehow hear it too. One winter evening, snow fell softly outside his lab. Eli sat by the window, lost in thought, when he received a message from the United Earth Space Command. It was an open call for scientists and engineers to join a long-range research mission. The destination: an unexplored system at the edge of human space, where a massive ring-shaped structure had been detected. The name of the mission flashed across the screen. Operation Silver Horizon. He read it again and again. Something inside him stirred. Without hesitation, he packed his things and filled out the application form. He didn't know if Lena was out there, if she was even still alive. But something in his heart told him this was the path to her, and to the promise they made under the stars so long ago. That night, before leaving for the mission briefing, Eli walked to the same hill where it all began. The town looked smaller now, quieter. The stars above seemed unchanged, eternal witnesses to the lives of those who looked up at them. He stood in the cold wind, whispering to the sky, "Wait for me, Lena. I'm coming." The stars won't keep us apart forever. As he turned to leave, a bright meteor streaked across the heavens, just like the night they made their promise. For a brief second, the silver light reflected in his eyes and on the ring he still carried in his pocket. He smiled faintly. The promise of two children beneath the stars was about to reach across galaxies. And somewhere, far away among the stars, a faint signal, shaped like a ring, when answered. The deep space ship Starhawk glided silently through the void, its silver hull reflecting distant starlight. The engines hummed softly, a constant reminder of human progress. Fragile, yet determined. Commander Lena Ward stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the vast screen showing a glowing ring floating in darkness. It was enormous, almost the size of Earth's moon, and it orbited a dying red star. Around her, the crew worked quietly. They were explorers, scientists, and dreamers, all chosen for the Operation Silver Horizon mission. Their goal was to study the strange ring-shaped megastructure that defied all explanation. No one knew who built it, or how old it was. But one thing was certain, it wasn't natural. Lena leaned forward. Magnify the image. The main display zoomed in, showing details of the ring's surface. It wasn't smooth metal, it looked alive. The structure pulsed faintly with blue light, like veins carrying energy through a body. Dr. Mira Cade, the ship's science officer, adjusted her glasses. Radiation levels are stable. The surface seems to be reacting to our scanners, Commander. It's almost like it knows we're here. Lena frowned slightly. Knows? Yes, Mira said softly. There's a rhythm in the energy pulses, not random. Almost like a heartbeat. The commander's eyes stayed fixed on the screen. A strange feeling stirred inside her chest. For a moment she thought she heard a faint tone through the speakers. A melodic hum, looping softly like the ring was singing. Record that, she ordered, and keep monitoring all frequencies. As the crew returned to their stations, Lena reached into her uniform pocket and touched the small silver ring she always carried. It had been years since she'd thought about Clearwater, but tonight, the memory of that hill under the stars felt sharper than ever. She could almost hear Eli's voice. One day, we'll go to the stars together, back on Earth. Eli Carter stood in the observation bay of the transport ship Odyssey, his heart pounding with excitement and fear. The stars outside looked brighter than he'd ever seen them. This was his first real trip beyond Earth's orbit. He had been accepted into the Silver Horizon project as a communication specialist. When he received the message confirming his place, he had stayed up all night staring at the sky, the same stars he used to dream about with Lena. Now, after weeks of travel through slipspace, the ship was approaching the same system where Starhawk was stationed. The view of the massive ring appeared on his screen and his breath caught. It was beautiful, endless, glowing, mysterious, and somehow familiar. He whispered to himself, "The ring, it's real." His colleague, Dr. Ivan Clark, turned toward him. "You're talking again, Eli. To yourself, I mean." Eli smiled slightly. "Just thinking out loud. I've seen this pattern before, years ago in my research data." Ivan raised an eyebrow. "You mean that strange harmonic signal you used to chase?" "Yes, I think it came from this place." Ivan gave him a curious look. "You realize how impossible that sounds?" Eli chuckled softly. Most of what humanity does now sounded impossible once. When the Odyssey arrived at the ring, both ships established orbit around the structure. A faint light glowed from within its inner circle, like an eye opening after a long sleep. Lena stood on the docking platform, watching as new personnel arrived. Among them were scientists, engineers, and technicians carrying boxes of equipment. Then she saw him. At first, she thought her eyes were playing tricks, but as he stepped out of the shuttle, his brown hair slightly messy, his face older but familiar, her heart stopped. "Eli," she whispered. He froze. Their eyes met across the docking bay, years of silence breaking in a single heartbeat. Lena walked toward him slowly, disbelief written on her face. "It's really you?" He smiled nervously. "Last time we talked, you said you'd fly to the stars. I couldn't let you do it alone." Her lips curved into a small smile. "You always were stubborn, and you always kept your promises," he replied. His voice soft. For a moment, they simply stood there. Two old friends surrounded by the hum of machines and the cold beauty of space. The years between them melted away. Later, on the command deck, Lena introduced Eli to the crew. Some of them looked skeptical. After all, he wasn't part of the official roster. But Dr. Mira, curious as always, asked him about his work. Eli showed her data files of harmonic frequencies he had been studying for years, signals that matched the energy coming from the ring. "These waves," he explained, pointing to the graph, "are repeating in perfect circular sequences, like the ring itself is sending a message." Lena leaned closer. "Do you know what it's saying?" "Not yet," Eli admitted. "But I think it's waiting for us to answer." Mira frowned. "Waiting? How can a structure wait?" Eli turned toward the main screen, watching the glowing ring. "Maybe it's not a structure at all. Maybe it's listening." Over the next few days, the team worked to approach the ring. Drones flew close to the surface, scanning every curve, every pulse of light. The readings were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The energy signatures were ancient, millions of years old, but they reacted when human ships came near. One night, as Eli studied the data alone in the lab, he noticed something strange. The energy pattern had changed slightly since he arrived. It now pulsed in a rhythm identical to one of his earliest. Transmission codes, the same pattern he had used years ago while trying to reach distant stars. His hands trembled as he watched the data repeat his signal perfectly. "It's responding," he whispered. "It remembers me." He ran to find Lena. She was in the observation room looking out at the ring. "Lena." "The ring, it's copying my old signal patterns." She turned sharply. "Are you sure?" He nodded, his voice full of wonder. "It's the same harmonic loop I sent when I was a kid. The same one I used to test my communication prototypes." Lena stared at him, speechless for a moment. "Eli, that was over 15 years ago." "I know," he said softly. "But somehow it heard me." The commander didn't reply. She looked back at the ring, the faint blue glow reflecting in her eyes. "What if it was calling back all this time?" she murmured. The next morning, the ship's sensors detected a new signal, strong and rhythmic. It wasn't a random burst of energy. It was a sequence of tones, like a voice speaking through light. Dr. Mira decoded it and displayed the pattern on the main screen. The message was simple, a circular symbol repeating endlessly. Eli stepped closer, his breath catching. "That shape. It's a ring." The crew exchanged uneasy looks. Lena crossed her arms. "What does it want?" Mira whispered. "Maybe it doesn't want anything. Maybe it's remembering." Eli's heart pounded. He couldn't explain it, but he felt like the structure was somehow aware of him. Of them. As if their childhood promise, made under Earth's sky, had echoed across time and space, reaching this ancient creation. Later that night, Lena stood alone in her quarters, holding the small silver ring in her palm. The hum of the ship was steady, but her thoughts drifted back to Earth, to a hill, a meteor shower, and a boy who believed they would reach the stars together. Now, standing before an alien ring in another system, she realized they had. She placed the ring back around her neck, whispering, "We made it, Eli." But deep in her heart, she couldn't shake a quiet unease. The megastructure's signals were growing stronger every hour, and there was no telling what would happen next. Back in the lab, Eli stayed awake, studying the harmonic responses. Suddenly, the entire ship shuddered. Alarms rang. The crew rushed to stations. "Commander?" shouted Mira. "The ring is generating a gravitational field." "It's pulling us in." Lena ran to the command deck. On the screen, the glowing ring expanded with light, forming a whirlpool of energy. "Engines to full reverse," she ordered. The helmsman's hands flew over the controls, but the ship barely moved. The pull was too strong. Eli's eyes widened as he looked at the data. "It's not attacking us," he said. "It's opening." The glowing energy formed a perfect circle of light in the center of the ring. Inside, they could see stars. Stars that didn't belong to this part of the galaxy. Lena's breath caught. "It's a gateway," Eli turned to her. "A doorway to somewhere else." The ship continued to drift closer, drawn into the light. Lena took one last look at Eli, fear and awe mixing in her eyes. He whispered, "Looks like we finally reached the stars." Before anyone could respond, the Starhawk crossed the threshold and vanished into the glowing heart of the ring. The Starhawk shook violently as it crossed the blinding field of light. For a moment, everyone on board was weightless. The ship's systems flickered and all sound vanished. No alarms, no voices, only a strange silence. Then suddenly gravity returned and the stars outside looked different. Lena Ward gripped the edge of her chair, breathing hard. "Status report," she called. Dr. Miracade's hands flew over the console. "Engines still functional. Power levels stable. But Commander," she paused, eyes widening at the screen. "We're not in the same system anymore." Eli Carter stepped closer. "What do you mean, not the same system?" Mira turned the monitor toward them. "The star coordinates don't match anything in the human database. The constellations are all wrong." Eli stared at the unfamiliar sky shown on the screen. The stars glowed brighter and a giant blue planet floated nearby, surrounded by shimmering clouds. He whispered, "The ring." "It moved us." Lena took a deep breath. "We've traveled through space." "No," Eli said softly. "Through something bigger. Maybe even time." The room went silent. The idea was unbelievable, yet the evidence was right before them. The ship orbited the new planet cautiously. It looked peaceful from above, covered in oceans, green continents, and glowing lines that pulsed faintly across its surface. Dr. Mira ran more scans. "The energy signature matches the rings. It's everywhere on this planet like veins of light under its crust." "Is there life?" Lena asked. "Not biological," Mira replied. "No plants, no animals. But the atmosphere is breathable. Whatever built this world made it for visitors." Lena watched the blue surface turning slowly beneath them. "Prepare a landing team. We'll go down and take a look." Hours later, the Starhawk descended through the atmosphere. The clouds parted, revealing vast shining structures spread across the land. Towers of silver, glowing bridges, and empty cities that sparkled under the alien sun. The landing site was near a huge plaza shaped like a circle. Strange symbols were carved into the stone floor, glowing with faint light as the humans stepped off the ship. Lena led the team, her boots crunching softly against the ground. The air felt clean, cool, almost too perfect. Eli followed, scanning with his handheld device. "The energy readings here are incredible. It's like the planet is alive." Lena turned to look at him. "Alive?" He nodded. "Yes, not in a human way, but aware." Dr. Mira crouched near one of the glowing patterns. "These carvings, they match the harmonic sequences we decoded from the ring." Eli knelt beside her, tracing his fingers near the lines. "Look, see this shape? It's repeating again and again." Lena leaned over his shoulder. "A circle," he smiled faintly. "A ring." They moved deeper into the city, walking between tall metallic towers that hummed quietly. Every sound they made, even a footstep, seemed to echo softly as if the city itself was listening. Lena's communicator buzzed. "Commander, are you seeing this?" Came the voice of Lieutenant Roan from the ship. "What is it?" she asked. "Energy readings are increasing all around you. It's like the city woke up." Suddenly, the glowing lines under their feet brightened, spreading outward like a ripple in water. The air vibrated. A beam of light shot into the sky, connecting the plaza to the stars. Eli shielded his eyes. "It's responding to us." Lena's voice was steady, though her heart pounded. "Hold your position. Don't touch anything." The light around them swirled and gathered into the shape of a vast holographic map floating above the plaza. Stars, planets, and pathways of light stretched across it. Dr. Mira's mouth fell open. "It's a map of the galaxy." Eli stared in awe. "No, it's more than that." He pointed to a symbol glowing brighter than the others, a small ring-shaped mark in the center. "That's our location. And this?" Lena asked, pointing to another ring symbol far away on the edge of the map. Eli frowned. "That's Earth's position." The realization struck them all at once. The two rings were connected across unimaginable distances. Lena's voice was quiet. It's a network, a system of gateways. Dr. Mira nodded slowly. If humanity learns to control it, we could travel across the galaxy instantly. Eli was silent, lost in thought. The glowing symbols reminded him of the data he'd seen years ago. The same harmonic circles. It felt as if the structure recognized him. Then, faintly, the air shimmered and a soft tone filled the plaza. The light pulsed faster. Lena looked around sharply. What's happening? Eli took a cautious step forward. It's communicating. Can you understand it? I think so, he said, eyes half closed as his scanner picked up the frequencies. It's using patterns from my old transmission, the same ones I sent from Earth years ago. Lena stared at him, disbelief on her face. How could it know that? He met her gaze. Because it heard me, a long time ago. The light swirled around him and the holographic map changed again. Now it displayed two human figures outlined in light, standing side by side beneath a field of stars. Between them, a single silver ring floated, shining brightly. Lena's breath caught. That's us. The projection pulsed softly, and then a voice, calm and echoing, filled the air. It wasn't human, yet it sounded almost gentle. 2 hearts. 1 promise. The key returns, everyone froze. The voice faded and the light dimmed. Eli stood there in silence, his heart racing. It spoke? Lena's eyes were wide. What did it mean? I think it was waiting for us, he whispered. For this moment. Back on the Starhawk, the crew studied every recording. The signal from the city matched the ring's pattern perfectly. Dr. Mira analyzed it again and again, but she couldn't explain how it reacted only to Eli and Lena. Commander, she said, it's as if the entire system is coded to your promise. Something emotional, not scientific. Lena frowned. That makes no sense. Machines don't understand emotions. Eli looked at her thoughtfully. Maybe this one does. She turned toward him. You really believe that? He smiled faintly. You once told me emotions are our weakness. Maybe they're actually our power. Later, as the ship floated in orbit, Lena stood alone in the observation deck. The glowing planet shimmered below, peaceful and mysterious. She could still hear the alien voice in her mind. 2 hearts, 1 promise. She touched the silver ring hanging around her neck. Eli entered quietly behind her. Can't sleep either? She smiled softly. No, you? Not a chance, he said, stepping beside her. It feels like everything we ever dreamed of is right in front of us, and yet it's more terrifying than I imagined. She turned to look at him. You think the ring chose us? He hesitated. Maybe not us exactly. Maybe what we represent. The connection we made as children and something pure, human, unbreakable. Lena gazed out the window. A promise made under the stars. Eli nodded. And now the stars are answering. Suddenly, alarms blared. The floor trembled. They rushed to the bridge where Dr. Mira was already at the console. The ring system, it's activating again, she shouted. It's generating a massive energy surge. Lena steadied herself. From the planet? No, from the ring in orbit. It's forming another gateway. On the main screen, a second portal of light appeared beside the first one, larger, brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. Eli's scanner beeped wildly. The signal pattern? It's identical to mine. Mira looked confused. Your signal? But that means Eli finished for her. It's opening because of us. The glowing light reached out like a beam, striking the Starhawk directly. The ship trembled violently. Shields holding, reported Rowan, but not for long. Lena turned to Eli. Can we stop it? He shook his head. I don't think it wants to harm us. I think it's pulling us somewhere else. Where? She demanded. He looked at her, eyes full of wonder and fear. To the heart of the ring. The light engulfed them once more. As everything turned white, Lena's last thought before losing consciousness was the same one she had as a child. The night she looked at the stars beside Eli. Someday, we'll go to the stars together. Now they truly had. When the Starhawk emerged from the blinding light, the crew found themselves hovering above a vast city. A city that seemed alive, glowing softly with colors that shifted like sunlight through water. It was not like any place humanity had ever seen. Towers stretched high into a sky that glimmered with strange stars. Bridges arched over empty streets, glowing faintly as if carrying invisible energy. Lena Ward took a deep breath. This is incredible. Eli Carter stared in awe beside her. It's more than a city. It's a system. Everything here is connected. Dr. Mira Cade scanned the area with her handheld device. The energy readings are off the charts. It's like the city is a single organism, every building, every street, every light, all part of a network. The landing team carefully made their way down. The ground beneath their feet pulsed softly with light, as if the city recognized their presence. Lena touched the surface of a glowing plaza and felt warmth. "It's responding to us," she whispered. Eli nodded, his eyes fixed on a holographic display appearing above the central fountain. Not just responding. It's communicating. The plaza opened into a vast hall, a dome of transparent energy filled with faint golden light. Floating symbols swirled around them, moving in rhythm with the pulsing city. Each symbol resembled a circle, a ring, or a pattern that Eli had seen in his childhood experiments. "It's beautiful," said Lena softly. She reached out toward a floating symbol, and it reacted to her touch. The circle expanded, sending ripples of light through the hall. Eli watched, his hands trembling slightly. "It's like it's alive, like it's sensing our emotions." Dr. Mira frowned. "Emotions? That's impossible. Machines can't feel." Eli shook his head. "Maybe this isn't a machine. Maybe it's something else. It's something ancient, something that understands connection, hope, and loyalty." As they explored deeper, they came to a large chamber in the city's center. A massive ring floated in the middle, made of energy, light, and metal. Its surface shimmered and reflected the explorers' faces like a mirror. Symbols moved across its surface, forming patterns that looked like pulses of life. "This must be the core," whispered Mira. Lena stepped closer. "It's beautiful." And enormous, Eli's voice was soft. "It's familiar too. I've seen these patterns before." He placed a hand near the glowing surface. Immediately a wave of energy surged through him. Not painful, but strong enough to make him stumble slightly. Images appeared in his mind. Stars, children laughing, a small silver ring on a hill, and a promise made beneath the night sky. He gasped. "It remembers," Lena's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" "It remembers us. Our promise," Lena felt her heart race. "Our promise?" "Yes," he said. "The one we made as children. The ring I gave you, it wasn't just a keepsake. It was part of this system, somehow encoded to respond to it." Lena's hands went to the silver ring around her neck. "It reacted to a promise?" Eli nodded. "This entire city, maybe the whole structure, responds to bonds. Human connections, loyalty, hope. Emotional energy seems to power it." The city pulsed brighter as they moved closer to the core. Lights wrapped around them like ribbons, guiding them. Symbols in the air began to form patterns resembling humans. Two figures standing side by side, holding hands. Between them floated a silver ring, shining brighter than anything in the room. Lena's voice trembled. "That's us." Eli took her hand gently. "It knows. It's reacting to our bond, the promise we made." Dr. Mira stepped closer, studying the holograms. "If it responds to emotional bonds, maybe it can help humanity in ways we don't yet understand." Eli's eyes brightened. "Exactly. If we can synchronize with it, maybe we can unlock travel, communication, even survival techniques that are impossible with our current technology." Lena squeezed his hand. "But how do we do that?" The light of the core pulsed faster, almost impatiently. Then a soft, echoing voice filled the chamber. "The bond of humanity carries what we lost. The will to connect. The key is within those who honor their promise." Eli's heart skipped. "It's speaking. To us." The voice continued, gentle yet powerful. "Two hearts joined in purpose may unlock the path to the stars." Lena looked at him, understanding dawning. "It wants us to work together, to trust each other." Eli nodded. "We've always done that. And we made a promise, not just to each other, but to the stars." For hours, they studied the energy patterns. Eli realized that their emotions, their memories, loyalty, and belief in each other, were resonating with the core. The more they focused on their bond, the stronger the energy pulses became. Dr. Mira watched in awe. It's like the structure feeds on hope, trust, and unity. The stronger the human connection, the more powerful it becomes. Lena smiled faintly. "So it wasn't technology that was extraordinary. It was us," Eli nodded. "Humanity is extraordinary. This city was built to respond to that, to remind us of what makes us special." Suddenly the ground trembled. Lights in the city intensified and energy surged around them. The core projected pathways of light into the sky, forming a map of distant galaxies. Lena stepped back, alarmed. What's happening? Eli studied the holograms. It's opening, showing the path to the stars. A new image appeared, a human figure standing alone, separated from the other. Then another figure appeared, standing beside the first. Between them floated a small silver ring. Eli's voice was low. It's showing the promise again, the connection. And the ring is the key, Lena nodded. That means it's our responsibility. We have to keep it safe. We have to unlock it. The chamber shook again. The energy pulses grew chaotic. Eli realized the core required synchronization. Someone had to match their emotional pattern with its frequency. He turned to Lena. I think I have to interface with it, directly. Lena's eyes widened. What, Eli, you can't? We don't know what will happen. He shook his head. It's the only way to stabilize it. If I don't, the entire city could collapse and we could lose this technology forever. Lena's voice trembled. There has to be another way. Eli stepped forward, his hand hovering over the glowing surface. There isn't. Trust me, Lena. Just promise me you'll continue no matter what happens. Lena hesitated, then nodded, tears in her eyes. I promise, he smiled faintly. Then we're ready. Eli placed both hands on the core. A wave of energy surged through him, filling his mind with visions of the entire city, its towers, streets, and light. He could feel the city's consciousness, ancient and aware. It was vast yet gentle, and it welcomed him. Lena watched, holding the silver ring tightly. The energy around Eli shimmered and pulsed. Then slowly, he began to synchronize with the core, matching his emotions with its frequencies. The light in the city stabilized. Pathways appeared, glowing in perfect harmony. The holographic map of galaxies expanded, showing routes for travel that no human technology had ever achieved. Dr. Mira's voice was filled with wonder. It worked. He synchronized with it. Lena's eyes filled with tears. He did it. We did it. Together. After what felt like hours, Eli slowly stepped back. He was exhausted, drained, but smiling. The city hummed softly at peace. The energy pulses were calm, steady, and brighter than ever. He turned to Lena. It's done. The city is stable. And humanity now has a way to reach the stars safely. Lena hugged him tightly. You saved it. You saved everything. He smiled faintly. No, we did it together. Promise kept. The soft glow of the city reflected in their eyes. Outside, the alien sky stretched endlessly, full of stars waiting to be explored. And for the first time, they truly understood. Humanity's greatest power was not technology, speed, or strength. It was the promise to stay true, to trust and to believe, even across time and space. The ring on Lena's neck shimmered, as if affirming the truth of the moment. Somewhere deep in the city, the ancient voice whispered again, 2 hearts, 1 promise, the stars await.